Hello everyone, welcome to Arco. The story I'm about to tell you today was sent in by Ethan Campbell from Canada. Ethan wrote to us about an experience so scary and heartbreaking, that even now it leaves him shaken whenever he remembers it. He begins. My hands are shaking as I write this down, because even now, months later, I cannot make sense of what I experienced that night. Some people would call it supernatural, others might dismiss it as grief and imagination. But I know what I saw. I know what I felt. And no matter how terrifying it was, it proved to me that sometimes bonds of friendship go beyond death. I had a friend named Daniel Morgan. Calling him a friend doesn't feel like enough, he was more like my brother. We grew up together in Toronto, went to the same schools, and even when our paths diverged after university, he started his own business and I got a steady office job. We never grew apart. If anything, the years only made us closer. Daniel was one of those people everyone wanted to be around. He had a way of lighting up a room, of making you feel like you mattered. And to me, he was the one person I trusted with everything. If my life ever depended on someone, it would be him. That trust was put to the ultimate test one dark night last winter. It was a Thursday evening. Snow had been falling heavily all day, and by night the streets were covered in a thin, slippery sheet of ice. I was at the hospital, pacing the hallway with my heart hammering in my chest. My younger brother, Noah, had collapsed earlier from internal bleeding. The doctor said he needed urgent surgery, and that the operation required a blood transfusion. But there was a problem. Noah's blood type was rare, O negative, and the hospital's supply was almost empty. They needed a donor immediately, or Noah wouldn't survive the night. I felt helpless. My blood type didn't match, neither did my parents'. And then, almost instinctively, one name came to my mind. Daniel. He was O negative. I remembered it clearly from a blood drive we'd gone to years ago. I grabbed my phone with trembling hands and dialed his number. It rang a few times before he answered. His voice sounded faint, strained almost, but steady. Ethan. What's going on? Daniel, it's Noah. He needs surgery tonight. They need O negative blood or he won't make it. Please, please, I need you here. There was a long pause. I thought maybe the call had dropped, but then I heard him speak softly. I'll be there. Don't worry. And then the line went dead. I should have felt relieved, but instead, a cold unease washed over me. His tone, it was off, like he was far away, like he was speaking from a hollow space. But I pushed the thought aside. My brother's life depended on him coming. Minutes crawled by like hours. The doctors kept coming in and out, their faces grim. I kept glancing at the glass doors of the emergency entrance, praying for Daniel to appear. Every tick of the clock was a knife in my chest. Finally, almost an hour and a half later, I saw him. Daniel walked through the hospital's sliding doors, but something about him made me freeze. His face was pale, almost gray, and his eyes glistened as if he'd been crying. He didn't speak a word. Not a single one. He walked straight toward me, holding a sealed blood bag in his hand. At first, I didn't understand. How had he gotten it? Where? But before I could even form the words, he extended it toward me. When my fingers touched the bag, I recoiled. It was ice cold, so cold it burned my skin. I'd held blood packs before during hospital visits, and they were usually kept chilled, yes, but this was different. This felt like I was clutching something that had been buried in snow, something frozen beyond reason. Daniel, I whispered, my voice trembling. Are you okay? Where did you? He didn't answer. He just looked at me with those wet, shimmering eyes. His lips curled into the faintest, saddest smile I had ever seen. And then, without a word, he turned and walked away. I stood there, clutching the cold bag of blood, torn between chasing after him and rushing it to the doctors. Duty to my brother one. I handed it to the nurse, who rushed it into the operating room. Noah's life was hanging by a thread, and for the next 2 hours, I sat in that sterile hallway, every muscle in my body knotted with fear. Finally, the surgeon emerged. Noah was stable. The transfusion and operation had been a success. Relief flooded me, so powerful I nearly collapsed. I wanted to call Daniel, to thank him, to tell him how much I owed him. But when I tried, his phone went straight to voicemail. I figured maybe he just went home to rest. He'd looked exhausted. And I promised myself I'd go see him in the morning. Only, I never got that chance. Because when morning came, my phone rang. And it was Daniel's number. Smiling in relief, I answered quickly. "Daniel, man, thank you, But it wasn't Daniel's voice on the other end. It was a woman's. Shaky, broken, crying. "Ethan, it's Sarah. Daniel's sister." My chest tightened. I could barely get the words out. "Sarah? What's going on?" She took a long, trembling breath, and then the words that would haunt me forever spilled out. "Daniel, he died last night. There was a car accident. He was driving on the 401, heading into the city. The crash happened around 9:30 p.m. They said he died instantly. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. My vision blurred as I sank into a chair. No, that's not possible. That's not possible. I saw him. He was here. He gave me the blood, he saved my brother." There was silence on the line. Then, through sobs, Sarah whispered, "I'm so sorry, Ethan. He never made it to you." The phone slipped from my hand. My entire world tilted sideways. If Daniel had died at 9:30, then who had walked into the hospital? Who had pressed that ice-cold blood pack into my hand? I replayed the moment over and over in my mind. His pale face. His glistening eyes. His sad, silent smile. The way his body seemed almost too heavy, too slow, like he was dragging himself through invisible water. I had seen my best friend. But not alive. That night, while his broken body lay somewhere on a highway, his soul had carried out one final act of love. He had come to me, to Noah, because he couldn't bear to leave his duty unfinished. I never told Sarah. I couldn't. How could I explain that her brother, my brother in all but blood, had crossed back from the other side to save a life? How could I make her believe something I could barely comprehend myself? But I know what I experienced. The cold in my hands wasn't my imagination. The sadness in his eyes wasn't a trick of grief. Daniel came back. He came back to make sure Noah lived. Since that night, I sometimes feel him. When I walk alone down an empty street, a sudden chill will wrap around me, brushing my skin like icy fingers. At night, when the wind rattles against the windows, I swear I hear the faint echo of his voice, whispering my name. It frightens me, but at the same time, it comforts me. Because I know he's still with me. Watching. Protecting. Keeping his promise even beyond death. People say ghosts linger because of unfinished business. If that's true, then Daniel's unfinished business was me, and my brother. And he didn't leave until he made sure we were safe. But one question never stops haunting me. When I looked into his eyes that night, those glistening, sorrowful eyes, was I looking at my friend? Or at his ghost, desperate to hold on to the world for just one more hour? Either way, he kept his word. And I'll never forget that. Because sometimes, even death cannot break the bond of true friendship.